Okay, what's up everybody? I wanted to make a video for you guys about a topic that I think about quite often and I have thought about a lot recently over the last year or two. And the topic is listening versus hearing. Okay, so a lot of people might incorrectly use those words interchangeably. They're not the same thing. Hearing is much different than listening. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between those, talk about the advantages of one versus the other, and how they affect not only your relationships with people and how you communicate with people, but how people are going to perceive you versus which side of the scale you're on. Okay, so let's jump into it. All right, so here in the United States, Thanksgiving just happened, and this is a perfect case study for what I'm talking about because usually you're gathered around the Thanksgiving table, you're with your relatives, and God forbid someone starts talking about politics. But what you'll notice is whether it's politics or not, a lot of people will not really truly be listening to what other people are saying. What they're doing is they're just hearing what somebody is saying, and they are basically waiting to be able to jump in with their response. Okay, you'll also notice this if you maybe haven't seen somebody in a while and you both meet up and you're both so charged up and full of excitement of seeing the other person, and you just have so much that you want to say, and you're kind of talking over each other, right? And it's essentially, it leads to nobody really getting a word in and nobody really listening to what the other person is saying. Okay, so these ways of communicating where you're not listening, you're just hearing, are killing your conversations with people. They're killing your attention to detail, your level of awareness, your ability to effectively persuade and communicate with people. And even if the other person is not into the idea or up on this idea or aware of it, they are still subconsciously affected by whether or not you are. Okay, so let's examine a scenario here. Okay, so let's say it's Thanksgiving, right? And worst case scenario, Uncle Jim just brought up politics, and he's on one side and you're on the other side, right? Well, Uncle Jim starts it off because that's what Uncle Jim does, right? Da 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 da. And you say, well, da 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 da. Before you're even done saying what you're saying, Uncle Jim has already got his response because he thinks in his head, he presumes that he knows what your point is, even though he didn't listen to the full point. So before you're even done, Uncle Jim, da 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 da, right? You've already heard before you think you have what Uncle Jim is saying. So before he's even done, you're da 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 da, right? And it keeps going back and forth, da 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 da, until somebody flings the cranberry off the table and gets pissed and runs away, right? At least hopefully that doesn't happen, but I'm sure it does in many, many families throughout the United States, especially in Thanksgiving time. But this isn't just exclusive to Thanksgiving and seeing Uncle Jim. This is every day, all right? This is with your coworkers. This is with your loved ones, your significant other, right? So the difference between hearing and listening, okay? We talked about hearing, right? That's where you're just basically waiting until they're done so you can jump in. However, listening is where you actually are actively engaged in what the other person is saying, and you're processing it and thinking about it critically. You wait until they're done speaking, and then you respond with your reply that directly pertains to what they're saying, right? If it's a scenario where a reply isn't necessitated, like let's say you're in class or you're watching a video or whatnot, then that's a different type of listening. It's not active back and forth engagement, call and response. You're basically absorbing, right? Still actively listening, but you're not responding, right? So what I want to talk about more though is the communication side, the call and response, right? Because communication is probably the most important and also one of the most overlooked aspects of humanity, basically, whether you're in business, whether you're, just talking with family or whatever it is. Okay. So when you're actively listening to somebody, your eye contact is nonstop or almost nonstop. Of course, there's always going to be, maybe a second something happened over there and, it directs your attention for a split second and then you're back on, locked on eye contact. Okay. So your eye contact is absolutely locked on. Okay. You're not only listening to the words somebody is saying, but you're actively listening to the context of what they're saying. Right? We've all heard it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? Not only how you say it, but under what context you're saying something. What were the sentences that came before? What are the sentences that are coming after, right? Just like in a melody in music, it's not just one note that matters. It's the note that came before and the notes that come after, which make up that contour. So the contour of the conversation creates the context for which you are listening to the other person. All right. And that context is going to inform you about what it is that they're actually trying to convey. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. Right. And you will never actually truly 100% fully understand what somebody is trying to convey. But you can get pretty damn close. You can maybe get to 90%, 95%. If you know the person really well, 98, I don't know. Right. But you're never going to get to 100%. The only way to get close, though, is to actively be listening at the utmost level of ability, right? So that instance where you're listening to them, you're listening to the context, you're being informed about what it is that they're truly trying to convey, right? Now, your response to them is going to be much more intelligible and much more accurate and closely related to the topic at hand that they have presented to you, which is going to subconsciously, and in the case of people who are aware of these things, consciously inform the other person that you were actually listening to what they were saying. How many times have you said something to somebody and they responded to you with something that was like not even related to what you were talking about? That's somebody who's hearing, okay? Versus, have you ever talked to somebody who, as you're talking to them, their eye contact and their active listening to you is so astute and so attuned to you that it made you feel like you were the only person in the room, right? That's the goal you should strive for. That's what you want. You want to make the other person feel like they're the only person in the room right there when they're talking to you, okay? Whether they are the only person in the room or not, okay? You want to make them feel like you're the center, they're the center of the universe for that moment, right? And then, in turn, once that, they're done speaking, 2-second rule, okay? I didn't make this up. I heard it somewhere. I don't remember where I heard it, but you want to wait 2 whole seconds, right? So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi before you respond, okay? Make sure there's a 2-second gap between when they stop talking and when you start talking. It might seem awkward at first, but it's not. Trust me. It's going to make it so that you don't end up interrupting the person, which can be perceived as a very insulting thing to some people, because when you interrupt somebody, you're basically telling them that they don't matter. You don't care what they have to say. You're just going to talk right over them because you're more important, or what you have to say is more important, right? So that's bullshit. Don't be an interrupter, all right? I did an open house one time. I'm in real estate. I did an open house with a lender who came and brought some snacks and stuff. And then every client that walked through the door, I'd be having a conversation, communicating with them. And then, he was a part of the conversation, which is okay. But what wasn't okay was, he would be just interrupting the clients like every 2 seconds to interject something, which I get it. Maybe he thought it was important or whatever, but it left a bad taste in my mouth because I'm sitting there like, hey man, these are potentially, future clients of mine, and you're kind of giving things a weird, bad vibe, So especially around people who are good communicators, they will definitely notice if you're an interrupter, okay? So quickest way to automatically elevate your level of perceived communication, how intelligent you are, how aware you are, how focused you are, is to stop being an interrupter. Wait that 2 seconds until they're done talking. Once you're sure they're done talking, then you can reply with your response that is based on the context of the conversation and based on the idea that you believe the other person was trying to convey as accurately as possible. Okay, so those are the differences between hearing and listening. Ask yourself and notice over the next few days or the next week, which one are you? Are you a hearer or are you a listener? Right? I guarantee you, the moment that you start implementing some of these ways and ideas to become a listener versus a hearer, you're going to notice you're going to be having better conversations with people. You're going to be more successful at whatever it is that you do as far as business, your relationships with people, etc. And you're going to notice a drastic change in your life. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, Fletcher Group, Jake Fletcher right here in Miami, Florida at RE/MAX. I'll see you guys next time. Sell smart, buy bold. Peace.